everybody. So we're going to start our space unit today, talking about perspective in art. So first we're going to start with a little bit of a review. We talked about space in our elements and principles unit. So space is the illusion of objects having depth on a two-dimensional plane. So here there's a little illustration talking about different ways to create the illusion of space through overlap, adding value, the placement, size, focus. But what we're going to talk about is the one down here, number 6, linear perspective. All right, so perspective is a technique that allows us to represent three-dimensional objects on a two-dimensional plane. Architectural illusion was perfected during the Renaissance. So here is an image, Masaccio's Trinity, and this is a great example of perspective. So where this is located, the viewer would be standing down here, and as you look up, you would see the great architectural painting, and it looked so realistic that it looked like there's an entire room behind the crucifix here, even though it's just a painting and this is just a wall. So implementing perspective to create that illusion that you could walk through this space is the idea. All right, so these are some important perspective vocabulary that you need to know. So there's the viewing point and the elevation of view, the place where we stand to look at an object. The slightest shift and the entire picture can change. So I want you to try something wherever you're sitting right now. I just want you to move slightly to the left, come back to center, and then slightly to the right. Notice how whatever in front of you changes ever so slightly. So in front of me right now, there's like a lamp that comes in front, and as I move slightly to the left, I can see the side of the lamp where there's a stripe going down it, whereas when I'm front and center, I can't see that stripe. So that's kind of the example of the viewing point, so things change as you shift in motion. Then there's the horizon line, which is this right here, where the ground meets the sky. All right, so that's really important to know. And then there's the vanishing point, which is different from the viewing point. So the viewing point is from where you're standing and what you see in front of you. The vanishing point is where all things disappear. So the lines that are parallel to one another and level with the ground plane appear to meet at the same point on the horizon line. So in our little image here, our vanishing point would be right here because all of these lines lead towards the vanishing point. So these lines of the railroad, the lines of the fence, and our electrical power lines all lead to this vanishing point. Okay, so we're going to talk some more about the viewpoint and elevation. So objects appear differently when viewed from various angles, both left to right and up and down. So like we did with that exercise before, that's what we're talking about. The elevation changes depending on your composition. The horizon line may not always be visible. So if you are drawing something from a worm's eye view, so if you're like laying on the ground looking up at a building, you're probably not going to see the horizon line on your image. Whereas if you're doing bird's eye view, you may also not see the horizon line on the image because it'll be so far up above that all you see is ground. The true horizon line is always at the level of your eye. The higher the elevation, the higher the horizon line. So I'm 5'4", so my horizon line at my eye level is going to be somebody that different from someone that's 6'2". Just where we see the horizon line is going to be different. So our elevation is different, and what we see of different objects is going to be different. So this box would look different to me as it would to someone who's taller than I am. Okay, so today we're going to focus on 1-point perspective. We'll come back tomorrow and we'll talk about 2-point perspective. But for today, we're just going to talk about this one. So the hallmarks of 1-point perspective is that the object has lines that are parallel to one another They recede towards the horizon line, meeting at a single vanishing point. That is the important part. There's one vanishing point. So I threw in some math terms there, talking about parallel lines. Don't get scared. So what I mean by that, we're looking at the object here. So we have these lines here, which are parallel, right? They could go on forever and they'll never meet. And then we have the top and bottom lines of our box. And those are also parallel with each other. And they'll never meet no matter how far they get. So to our next point, when both the width and height of an object are parallel to the picture plane, we're using 1-point perspective. So we talked about these parallel lines here that I just circled. So the picture plane is going to be where our drawing is held. I'm sorry for my shaky drawing skills on the computer. So if this is my awful ripped, torn piece of paper, these, I'm going to switch colors. So these lines here, right, are parallel to these lines. All right, and then these lines, I'm sorry for all these colors, all right, and then are parallel to these lines here. So, ooh, crazy, okay. So that's what we're looking for when we're looking for 1-point perspective, when we can see the surface of an object is parallel to our picture plane, okay? So the surface of an object, sides, top, and bottom, extend into the picture, and it creates the illusion of depth. So we're talking about these lines here now, okay? The cube's sides extend with imaginary lines towards the vanishing point, which remember is this blue dot here in the center. So the corners of our boxes all recede to that vanishing point, and then we cut them off to create the box formation, which is these lines here. Okay, hopefully that's not too confusing. With my next video, when I show you how to actually draw out in 1-point perspective, it'll probably make a little bit more sense. There won't be all these crazy colors going on. But that's it for now. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.